Right now, I want to talk about sort of a trend in real estate where family gifts, in order to provide or enhance a down payment, it's always been a thing, but it has been getting larger and more common among young home buyers, and that's according to a new analysis by CIBC. So nearly a third of first-time home buyers now rely on this type of financial aid, with the size of the average parental cash injection going past the six-figure mark. And a growing share of existing homeowners are also tapping their parents in order to upsize to a larger property. Now, full disclosure, we got help from our family. My dad told me the smartest thing you can do is get into the real estate market as early as possible, because once you're in, and so long as you keep up with your payments and you don't overextend yourself, you can move up the property ladder. And now I'm in my forever home, and I'm very, very fortunate to have had that help. And I'm clearly not alone. And I am not. And just because I'm on this side of the fence doesn't mean I don't appreciate how hard it is on the other side. So let's dig into this with Develle Morrison from Bosley Real Estate. Good morning.
Hi, Ben. How are you?
I'm good. So I have to assume, Develle, that you've seen this firsthand. That this is a
absolutely. I mean, this is a very common thing. And thanks so much for sharing that you had family help. I also had family help when I got into the housing market as well too. And I know very few people who did not get help from their family.
Sure.
And, you and I are of a different age of the people who are in their 20s and 30s trying to come up now. So if those of us who are in our 40s and 50s got help, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The kids these days absolutely need help.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my goal is to help my kids as well. That's just, that's what you do. All things being equal, you help your tribe. And it is getting harder, and the amount, the percentage of your income that you can put towards the house, that the houses cost more, and the value of the house is going up faster than the money that we're making. So of course you need help. Is that contributing to sort of really two classes of people, the haves and the have-nots?
Absolutely. I mean, I do feel bad for people who don't have family help, because you're right. That is what's getting the others into bigger houses and bigger places, is because they have family help. Whereas for those that don't, they're either stuck renting, or, all they can afford is maybe a $600,000 condo.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to scrape by and do it on their own. So absolutely, it's a challenge for those who don't have family help. It really is too bad. But I think with interest rates being so high, it's probably slowed down the amount of money that parents are able to give, because I would imagine a lot of those parents are grabbing that money from a line of credit.
Yeah.
So interest rates being high, they're not going to give as much money as they were before. And
listen, it's not surprising to either you or me that this happens, but it's how quickly that number has expanded. It's gone up. It's at 31% right now. It's up 11% in 9 years. And I think that speaks directly to the sort of the crisis, the affordability crisis that we're living in.
Absolutely, for sure. It's directly tied to the value of properties. Real estate is so expensive that, that's the only way people can get in. And even if their parents help them the first time around, I think, as you mentioned at the beginning, they might help them to move up to the next round as well too. So, and I think also a lot of parents recognize that they'd rather give their money to their kids now when they actually need it, and they could see and be useful, versus waiting for their parents to die and, leaving money to your kids when they're like 60 or 70. They just don't need your money anymore.
I think we need it. I think we need it anytime. Hey, Develle, let's move on. There's some movement at City Hall that landlords and tenants should be paying attention to.
Yep.
Yes.
Very scary, I think, from my perspective.
So,
obviously,
lay it out for us.
So it's a rent eviction bylaw. And so for years, tenants have been complaining that landlords are kicking them out to do renovations, and sometimes the renovations aren't real. And essentially the tenant is being kicked out because they're paying rent that's so low. The landlord does some, renovations, minor renovations, and then gets another tenant in at a much higher price. And so that's not legal, based
Yep.
on, the RTA. What you should be doing is if you do a renovation and you need to kick the tenant out, you need to allow that tenant to move back to their same spot for the exact same price that they were paying before. And so because that has not been happening, now Toronto is looking at coming up with this renoviction bylaw, which essentially would say that if you are going to do a renovation, that you have to have all of your building permits secure, and you have to have an engineer's report stating that vacancy is absolutely necessary.
Okay, so they're just adding more to the burden of being a landlord. But it seems to me that you, on one side, you got this anecdotal evidence of boorish behavior by landlords, bullying behavior by landlords. And on the other side, you've got this massive, maybe overcompensation in order to protect tenants. Couldn't there be a middle ground where you acknowledge if you're adding value to your own property, then there could be a formula by which an elevated rent is determined based on the value that you've put into your property?
Yeah, one would think, but I think that the whole Residential Tenancies Act is an overreaction, right? You're trying to account for 2% of bad tenants and 2% of bad landlords, and so the rest of us have to suffer.
Yeah. I always hate when we legislate to the lowest common denominator. Like the best example of it wasn't even a city bylaw. It's what happened at the Sky Dome when the one guy threw the beer, and so that they got rid of all the beer. It's like, no, you make sure that guy can't. You make sure that guy can't come back. That's how you deal with that problem. You don't make everybody else's life worse.
Exactly. And so, now you are creating a burden for landlords to get all these permits and an engineering report. Well, they wouldn't have normally gotten an engineering report to do renovations in the first place. So now you've created an added expense.
Yeah.
So, and again, I hate the idea of controlling what somebody does to a property that they own and they pay the mortgage for.
Well, apparently, from what I heard back in the day when they were coming up with when Pierre Trudeau was writing his new constitution, in one of the early drafts, right to property was in it, and they took it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The city is now going to spend 5 months speaking to stakeholders and trying to create a policy on this. So I do hope it won't be as drastic as what I had mentioned. But there was only one councillor who even voted against this. So it seems like all of council is pretty much on board with doing this kind of bylaw against rent evictions. So that's troubling to me.
Yeah, so the city's succeeding despite the people who run it. Thank you very much, Devel. I appreciate your time. Have a great long weekend.
Thanks, you too.